everyone, it's Mary, and today I'm reading you my February wrap-up and what I'm currently reading. This month I will go not as usual from the lowest star rating to the highest, but in order of which I read the books in. I didn't read a lot in February, and I don't know if it was because my reading has not been that great this month, but the first book that I've completed was The Vet's Daughter by Barbara Comyns, and this book was written in 1959 and it's considered kind of a classic, a modern classic, and I had never heard of this book before. My mother gifted this to me and I had put this in my wish list on the book depository mostly because of the cover, but the synopsis seemed quite interesting. And from the premise, it seemed to be quite a gothic kind of little novel, and it's blurred by Sarah Waters as well. And I honestly thought it was going to be a little bit different. This talks about Alice, that is a young girl living with her poor family. And as the title suggests, she is a vet's daughter because her father is a vet. And actually talks about really her story, exploring how she copes with having kind of a difficult family situation because her father really doesn't pay much attention to her, is kind of a almost a violent man, and really the only thing he cares about is his job. The narration runs very smoothly throughout the whole novel, and you can sense there is something about this gothic nature of it all the time, but it's not actually explored till way late into the story. And you know, when the kind of magical realism aspects of the novel came about, I felt like it was perhaps too late. And it was a pity because if it had been explored a little bit more, I would have enjoyed it more, I guess. But the ending kind of sprung on me and I wasn't really expecting it to go that way. I'm not suggesting the ending should have been different because I wouldn't know what to do with the ending. But yeah, that's why I gave it 3 stars, because I wasn't quite sure it was wrapped up in the right way. I thought the writing style was very good and very interesting. You were very much feeling for her and rooting for her, so that aspect of it was very good. It was a good story. It left me really wanting to read more from Barbara Comyns in the future, so maybe this one was not her best work, probably. Nonetheless, I enjoyed reading this and it was very quick as well, so 3 out of 5 stars for this one. Then there's a book that I DNF'd. It was the pick for, oh god, I'm a bit behind with months with my book clubs. I'm not even really participating into the conversations, although I'm kind of reading what the people are saying, so I'm kind of sneaking through and see what's going on. But yes, this was the pick for the Read Around the World, the book club, and it was a pick for Bangladesh. Yeah, I have an Italian copy, but I'm just going to put a picture up here of the English version, and it is Golden Age by Tahmima, Anam. This is supposed to be the first of a trilogy, I think. I DNF'd this book entirely because of me. It was not badly written in any way. A lot of people said how informative it was for what concerns Bangladesh and Pakistan, and it's set during the war. We follow a family mainly through the eyes of the mother of this family. Her son and daughter, first they are taken away from her, and then when they're kind of adults they get involved in the resistance in the war. And so yes, it's about them, but I think halfway through and I just was not interested in the story whatsoever. I didn't feel like I was learning something about Bangladesh. That was just me, probably. And as I said, it's not badly written. I was just not interested in it at all, and I thought whatever happens to them, I don't care. So I just DNF'd it. I'm sorry, because probably it's not a bad book. There was that one, and then another book club pick, also for the Read Around the World book club, and I feel like this was the pick for February, so I might be on track with that. And it is In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Álvarez. And so I have a lot to say about this book, because I finally gave it 2 stars, but I feel like I've been a bit harsh with my rating towards this one because I was very much interested in the story. And it's not, it's not an entirely bad book. 2 stars, it's a low rating, but it's not the lowest. So this book is about the Mirabal sisters that were 4 sisters living during the Trujillo dictatorship in the Dominican Republic, basically from the late 30s to the early 60s. More or less, this is the timeline, and this is a true story. It's historical fiction, but the sisters really lived, and 3 of them died because of their involvement in this, in the resistance towards Trujillo. And this is not a spoiler, it's the first thing that you learn going into this book. So 3 of them were killed, were murdered because of their involvement, and one of them, Dedé Mirabal, was still alive until 2014 when she died naturally. And the book talks about the sisters' life from when they were very young to when they died, basically. And it goes into each sister's perspective, so you get to know the story through their eyes, even the one that's still alive in the book and is talking to a journalist about her sisters. So I first learned about the Mirabal sisters when I read Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, actually. So it was just a little snippet of their whole story. I kind of have to thank this book because after reading it, and actually while reading it, I was documenting myself a lot about the sisters because I wanted to know actually real facts. That's the problem with this book. The problem is that it's fiction, and this is weird because it's not the first time that I read an account of someone who's existed in history, but it didn't sit quite well for me, this. I felt like I wanted it to be a non-fiction book. I really wanted it to be a non-fiction book. I just wasn't buying their characterization. I did not agree with the author's view of the sisters. And that's mainly a personal thing, I think. She claims even at the end of the book that it's all in her head, it's all her imagination. And although I've watched several documentaries, several interviews with Dedé Mirabal, the sister that survived, so she was able to actually speak and tell the true version of the facts. So most of the things she actually says in the book are real, important events throughout the story, and most of their, general outlines of characters were kind of accurate, I would say, but I almost felt like she wasn't really allowed to. I don't know why I felt so protective towards them, but I was like, I don't know if, for example, Minerva Mirabal would have said that or would have thought that. And one thing that I did not really sit well with was especially Maria Teresa's character, the younger sister. She is described as very just vain and very empty as a character. She's just always constantly thinking about getting a boyfriend, which I don't feel like it's fair to her, even though I don't know her real character. But yes, that was probably very confusing in my explanation for not liking this book entirely, but it just felt like I wouldn't have depicted them in this way. Nonetheless, she did, she put her heart into this novel, I can tell that. So I'm not blaming the author. It's just that for me, I did not feel like I was enjoying that much their storyline. I kept reading because I'm interested in them. So I'm glad that this book sprung my interest for them and made me watch a lot of things and made me learn a lot of things about them and about the Dominican Republic as a whole, which I did not know anything about. So yes, probably I've been rambling too much about this book already. But because of this book, I purchased, and I'm still currently reading, this other book, which is what I was looking for in the first place, and that is Vivas en su Jardín. I don't know, I tried to look up and see if it was translated, and I don't feel like it was, although the reviews that I've seen on Goodreads are all written in English, so I have to look and I'll check. If I find an English version of this, I will put a link down below. But this is by Dedé Mirabal, so this is a non-fiction about her sisters, written by, you know, the sister that survived this tragedy. And it's really heavy on facts. I am basically halfway through and I am enjoying it. I don't feel like she is like the greatest narrator there is, but you know, for what it does, it does it quite well. It really tells you the facts, you know, the real stuff that happened. There are like snippets of letters and just a lot of other interesting anecdotes that you wouldn't be able to know if you read only, you know, the fictionalized account of the sisters. But I do feel like sometimes there is a little bit too much information, if you know what I mean. Like sometimes she would talk about a party that they went to or a wedding, and she would tell you all the guests that were invited, like first and last name, and I was like, okay, this is a lot of names, and they don't, I mean, I don't need those names. I can feel why she did it, but sometimes it was just a little bit too much. But yes, I'm very much enjoying this one and getting to know the real sisters. Overall, I'm glad that I got to, you know, that I got acquainted with the story. That is beyond fascinating. So yes, definitely recommend checking this one out if you can find an English version of it and if you're interested in the Mirabal Sisters. I also have to say that I accidentally joined FEM Yuri this month. So Lauren from Lauren and the Books was hosting kind of an event that ran throughout the whole month of February, in which the idea was to celebrate women and just read things that were involving, you know, women, written by women or about women, and just, you know, a lot of girl power for this month, which I mean, I'm always up for it, but I kind of discovered late because I'm so behind with my watching of the, you know, YouTube videos, but I discovered late that it was FEM Yuri, and I was like, wait a second. So Barbara Comyns is a woman, and then we have, you know, the Read Around the World book club is all about women around the world. So again, oh, women. And the Mirabal Sisters story is so empowering, you know, and makes you proud to be a woman. So yes, basically all I read was about women this month. The next book that I am currently reading is the Makioka sisters. And although this was written by a man, Jun'ichirō Tanizaki, it's all about women because it talks about four sisters. And I actually kind of was mixing things up a little bit because, you know, four sisters here, four sisters there, a lot of sisters. And I was like, wait, the oldest one married when she was 16. And I was like, no, that was a Mirabal sister. But anyway, apart from this confusion, they couldn't be more different because this is set in Japan just before the Second World War and talks about four sisters that are in an upper class family and are very much tied to tradition. Theirs is a very old family name, so they have to honor this name and just do, you know, things properly. So this book doesn't seem like a big one, but it's a chunker because it's 530 pages long, but the pages are so thin that you don't even realize how long it is while you're reading it. I'm enjoying this book very much, but I would recommend this book if you enjoy character-driven stories where nothing really happens, because that's something that I have to warn you about. Nothing really happens. And I knew that going into this book, so I was not expecting anything to happen. And it worked just well because I was like, okay, I know that, you know, not major events are going to happen, that we're going just to follow the stories of these four sisters as they are trying to basically marry them off. The first two sisters, so the oldest ones, are married, and you know, the middle one sister, Yukiko, she has to marry before the youngest. That's just the way things work. But they don't find quite the right suitor for her, and she isn't quite that cooperative with this. While the youngest sister, she has kind of a love interest that she cannot marry because of her older sister not being married yet. It's taken me quite a while to get through, but not in a way in which I have to push myself to read it. It's just once you open the book and you start reading, it really, you know, time passes and you don't even realize, because it's, you know, it's really enchanting. It really brings you into the kind of atmosphere, and I really am enjoying the way in which the sisters are portrayed. You really feel like you know them somehow. So yes, definitely recommend this one. And then the last book that I'm still reading, this was the Tales & Co. pick for, I think, October or November. I'm bad that way, but it's very interesting actually. I just feel like it's the right book to dip in and out of. So yes, that's what I did basically for this past months. But it is Sapiens, a brief history of humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. And as it says, it's a brief history of humankind. It really talks about evolution. It really talks about basically why we are the way we are. It talks about history. It talks about science. It talks about politics, capitalism, a lot of things in quite. I mean, it's not short, but it's not that long. So I didn't even join the discussion for this, but I read some very insightful comments in our book club. Mostly negative ones because of the inaccuracy of most of what Harari says, and because it's not really full of references. It has not a lot of footnotes, and you know, credit should be given where is due. But I still feel like this book is very interesting, and it opened up a lot of chapters for me, you know, in my mind that I was not aware of in this way. And I feel like for what it is, it works, because it's not a book made for, you know, for academics. It's not very specific, I would say. It's very much for the public. I feel like it's very intentionally provocative, and you really get to know his own opinion, more of a, you know, a general outward of how you should look into those things. So I didn't feel patronized by his opinion, because I felt like it was very much stated that it was his own opinion. And of course, even though he's kind of supported by facts, I would say, I would never take everything, you know, that it's written here for granted. But if something that it's here, it's interesting for me, then I would, you know, look into it and just know more about that specific topic. I mean, I will talk about what I think of it when I finished it, but I feel like it's interesting, and it's a compelling read. Every time I pick this up again, I just can't stop reading, and then I'm like, okay, I have to do something, and maybe I'll pick this in 2 weeks. But it's still, you know, entertaining, and it's still relevant. So yes, I'm enjoying this one. Okay, so that was all for my February wrap-up and what I'm currently reading. Please let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned and what you thought of them, and let's just chat in the comments down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!